G.A. Farini said, "I found the lost city of the Kalahari." "Nonsense," said Dr. A.J. Clement after a detailed study of Farini's claims. "Who is right?" In 1885, William Leonard Hunt, an American-born Canadian, claimed to have traveled by ox wagon through the remotest parts of the Kalahari Desert in Africa. He also claimed to have found the ruins of a city. Was Hunt really the great Farini, as he billed himself, or was he a great fraud, as claimed by Clement? This video provides an introduction to the controversy. From 1860 to 1900, Farini, an amazing character and showman, thrilled audiences in North America and Europe through his daring feats. He also managed some of the most captivating acts of his time. He traversed the Niagara Falls Gorge on an 1,800-foot cable, invented the human cannonball, and catapulted his adopted son, Lulu, through the air for 200 feet. Lulu was also an artist and an early pioneer in photography. He captured the image of the Kalahari Desert on Farini's expedition. Regarding the lost city, Farini claimed to have traveled 2,800 miles, or 4,500 kilometers, from Kimberley, South Africa, across the Northern Cape, up through Botswana to Lake Ngami, down along the Namibian border, and then into the Kalahari Desert on a hunting trip. It was on this hunting trip that he found ruins, now known as the lost city of the Kalahari. Then he traveled further south to the Grabie's Falls and on through the Northern Cape to Hopetown. Farini presented a paper on his journey and discovery to the Berlin Geographical Society in November 1885 and to the Royal Geographical Society in March 1886. He also published a detailed book on his travels later that year in London and New York, as well as a German edition. The French edition was published 1 year later. Farini's story about the lost city spawned over 30 unsuccessful searches from the 1930s to the early 2000s. My family, specifically Dr. J.N. Helderman and Mrs. W.J. Helderman, completed 16 searches by land and air. I went with them 12 times, being on my first search when I was 2 years old. In addition, I did a search with my wife and sons in 1999. A few years back, I read Farini's book again. His chronicle of his travels and adventures sounds true and matches the experiences and knowledge of people who have traveled in the same areas. In 1995, Shane Peacock produced a biography that is the most comprehensive background on Farini and his amazing life. Farini was an incredible person. Then I read Dr. A.J. Clement's book on the Lost City again. His book is very well researched and referenced. If you only consider his viewpoints, you will be convinced that Farini was a fraud, could not have completed the journey he claimed, and did not find any ruins as he described. However, Clement's hypothesis does not gel with Farini's nor Peacock's books, so I spent 2 years investigating further. In summary, Clement stated, Farini was a fraud through and through. There were no people in the Farini ruins area that could have built a city. There were discrepancies in Farini's descriptions of the ruins. Farini's journey itself was fraudulent. And finally, Farini could not have done the journey in the time he had available. Clement goes into detail about each of these elements and has extensive references and witnesses to support every claim. He even went further and proposed that a natural rock formation, Koppies or eggshell hills, was the probable lost city. In my research, I looked at each of these items in detail and concluded the following. If Farini was a fraud, his actions, nature, and descriptions did not support this. There were people who could have modified natural stone formations in the area so as to match Farini's descriptions of ruins. Inconsistencies in Farini's story can be explained through his use of the inaccurate maps of the time. Negative comments on the validity of his journey came from indirect and potentially biased sources. And after a detailed satellite review and analysis, it was entirely possible that he completed the full journey as described. Of course, Clement's arguments and my research and counter-arguments are extremely simplified in this video. The full details are available in my book, Farini's Lost City of the Kalahari, Fraud or Fact, available on Amazon. The initial 167 pages of this book focus on the case by Dr. Clement posing as a prosecutor and pursuing two charges. The first is that Farini fraudulently claimed to have completed the journey as described in his book. The second charge is that he fraudulently claimed to find the ruins of a city. I present the case for defending Farini against these allegations through providing new and past evidence that support Farini's claims. In the second part of the book, pages 164 to 366, I provide everything that any researcher who is interested in Farini's Lost City of the Kalahari could wish for. My book contains over 150 images and maps, including Farini's original map on which he made notes. There are over 660 citations, as well as a detailed analysis of his book and many other documents. It is the ultimate reference book for any serious researcher of the Lost City of the Kalahari. Unfortunately, the heavy visual component, numerous tables, and exhaustive references makes the book costly to produce. To alleviate this, I have published an Amazon ebook version as well. Did Farini travel the full journey as he described? Did he find the ruins of a city? Does the city exist? Was he guilty or not guilty of committing fraud? If you want the answers, you can now read the full case against and for Farini, and then consider your own verdict. The link to the book is in the description below this video. Enjoy the fascinating journey with Farini through the Kalahari Desert, as the Haldimans did, trying to solve one of Africa's mysteries. And remember Josh and Wynne Haldiman's motto, live dangerously, carefully.